Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the first time in 17 years that 2D Mario has really had a visual shake-up. From the new series' original outing on DS to its more refined 3D look on Wii and Wii U, animation and art style have largely remained the same. While compared to the NES originals there are many more frames of animation, they always remained rather loyal to them. For instance, because NES Mario throws a fireball with his left hand, and by throwing I mean he just lifts it, so does 21st Century Mario. Because NES Mario was just kinda pulled into a pipe in a static animation, so is 21st Century Mario. They definitely refined a ton of stuff, like adding the triple jump and the wall jump and the ground pound, but the core skeleton of animation never made the new series look or feel ambitious. And without even comparing, almost everyone knows that Wonder is a far cry from that. But how big of a jump is it really? Well, let's compare a bunch of stuff from animation to overall game feel. We'll be using New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe as the core comparison point here, okay? Let's go! Mario's jump height and descent is actually so comparable that they may actually be the exact same. However, that doesn't mean the games feel identical. Far from it, there's a drastically different feel to Wonder. You'll also notice that his turning speed stays pretty loyal to what was established in U. But the core feel dividing the two is how Mario responds to letting go of controls, the feel of weight. If you were to let go of the controls while running, Wonder will carry Mario for a little bit, but soon he'll come to a complete stop. While U, on the other hand, keeps him plummeting for a while longer. This is especially demonstrable on platforms, where Wonder's Mario doesn't fall, unlike the U counterpart which just keeps on going. In terms of model, there's obvious improvements to clarity and design in Mario Bros. Wonder, but just how are they achieving this side-on look? Well, they actually revealed in a developer interview that Mario's model only really works on a side-on view. It's an illusion trick that allows Mario to face the camera while still looking natural, but any other angle will not work. In fact, this ends up looking really similar to games like Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. U, on the other hand, is always looking away from the player, and many of his key poses like jumping completely cover his face and all expression, whereas Wonder is always keen to show expressiveness at all times. And positioning isn't the only thing borrowed from older games. Just like in Mario World, Mario's cap now lifts off in descent. His running animation's also rather reminiscent of that game, even if it's a bit more its own thing. In comparison to Mario U, it definitely gives off more of a feeling of speed, even if the speed itself is very comparable. The same for the ground pound. The surrounding visual effects really make the move feel more powerful. Same for the slide. Mario now puts his arms out like he's launching off. It looks great. Crouching now brings Mario into a curled up ball, unlike U, which is just a very literal crouch. And he even noticeably kicks off the wall rather than just snapping while doing a wall jump. The general move pool just feels better with all these little tweaks, like how he now visibly kicks a Koopa shell rather than just a tiny little throw, and how he now visibly climbs into pipes rather than just being a frozen model being pulled in and out. Even just the side animation is more exciting now. And heck, just like in Odyssey and the Switch version of 3D World, you can now ground pound down a pipe. Power-ups now have a far more robust flair to collecting them, and the mushroom even grows in several stages. It looks great in slow motion. And of course, the Fire Flower can now be thrown with both hands. And yes, he's actually throwing the balls now, it's not just a static lifting of the hand. And here's something that really adds to the game: how reactive enemies are to Mario's presence. Now, Mario U wasn't completely devoid of this. There were 2 or 3 enemies in the game that would track Mario with their eyes, but 90% of enemies would just passively dawdle through the world without reacting to Mario one bit. Goombas not only watch you, but they show expressions of being determined and also scared. Like when you stomp a Goomba right next to them. That's actual fear in their eyes. U, on the other hand, is completely static. Likewise, enemies now even attack Mario, whereas in previous games he just took damage when touching them. And while we're here, let's check out the downtime between death and getting back into the game.
Onward and upward!
Sheesh, that's pretty substantial, huh? The overall art style of Wonder explores themes we've never really seen in Mario. The color palette goes beyond just primary colors and produces a fantasy setting far beyond anything in U. Even your typical grassy levels are filled with a drastically better use of color and far more detailed backgrounds. To use credit, the backgrounds aren't exactly terrible, but it's a generational difference side by side. And keep in mind that Acorn Plains is one of the more detailed in the game. Some other levels have very little going on in the background. Wander's overall levels have such a dynamic feeling to them. I was never sure what to expect, and as basic as it sounds, one level has rainy weather, which made me think, did any new Super Mario Bros. Game ever have rain? They must have, right? And I really don't think they did. My memory thought that this airship level had rain, but it was just cloudy, there's no rain. The only time this series has had rain to my knowledge was in Mario Maker 2. If it's not clear already, these two games are not cut from the same cloth, and the 11-year gap between New Super Mario Bros. U and Wander definitely shows. Before we head out though, let's check the audio side. Like how the characters' jumps now sound more like instruments rather than digital effects? Same for pipes, and heck, even the fireballs sound more organic. Long-established themes like the P-switch have a shake-up. And of course, a chunk of the cast have been recast, so let's check out a few of them before we head out.
It's me! Okie dokie!
Thanks for watching all the way through, and keep an eye on us for a lot more things on Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Bye everyone!